So today we'll be talking about treatment of cough, right? How you treat cough. Now that you're done with respiratory system in pathology, it'll be easier for you to understand how cough works and how you can treat cough. Basically, medications of cough or medications given to treat cough, these are called antitussive drugs, right? So let me write it down. Antitussives are those drugs that are given to subdue or treat cough, right, depending on the patient's condition, whether it is temporary or something like asthma that they need to keep on taking drugs throughout their life. Now, people will asthma or some chronic disease, chronic lung disease, in them, some of these drugs will go on throughout their life. It is not just that they take it for one period of time and it is done. They have to keep on taking it for a long period of time. Especially in case of asthma, they have to take it lifelong, or else at one point of time, if they are having an asthmatic attack and they do not have their asthmatic drug or sometimes even antitussive, in that condition it can be a problem, right? Big problem. So coming to this, these mostly only provide symptomatic relief. These will not treat the cause, right? These only provide symptomatic relief, right? These will not provide treatment completely, but only give symptomatic relief. Now coming to the classification of antitussive drugs, there are basically three main classes. You will have two other types of drugs as well that will come, but they are not included directly in antitussives. They are kind of separate, but they also will help in cough, in treating cough, in medical normalizing cough, but they will not come under your classification. So the main three categories or three classes will be central cough suppressants. So these act through the your medulla, wherein they act on your what you call cough center that is present in your medulla. I'll explain as we go. Then you have pharyngeal demulcents. Pharyngeal demulcents will basically think of them as they'll basically coat your mucosa through saliva so that it will irritation goes away. That is what pharyngeal demulcents do. The third one will be expectorants. These are basically those drugs that will literally throw out any mucus that is being built up in your, see, cough as such, you have to understand, is a reflex of your body. Cough is not something that happens due to it happens due to a disease, yes, but it is more of a reflex of your body, wherein uh, if you are not able to breathe, that is when someone will cough and they will try to remove or dislodge whatever is blocking their airway or the passageway through which you are breathing. All right, that is why cough occurs. If you have something that was not supposed to go inside your respiratory system or your bronchi or your tracheobronchial tree, at that point of time you will have laryngospasms and bronchospasms, which will in turn interpret as cough, right? You will forcefully try to push things out. That is a cough. Now in this condition, expectorants can also come handy, wherein you are throwing, if it is something like mucus, then you are trying to spit it out. Okay, you have, I told you there are two special categories as well. I'll write them down right now. Bronchodilators, you studied about some of them in asthma, right? And mucolytics. Mucolytics, right? So bronchodilators will simply increase the diameter or the size of the lumen of your bronchi, and mucolytics will basically dissolve the mucus. That is why they are called mucolytics. Now coming to the first three categories, especially the first one, central cough suppressants. Now these will include drugs that will inhibit cough center in your medulla. Now in your medulla that is present, I hope you know where your medulla is. In your medulla there is something called a cough center. Okay, there is one particular nucleus that will control the cough reflex. So central cough suppressants will inhibit that center. So they act by inhibiting cough center in medulla. All right, medulla is a part of your uh, brainstem, if you remember, at basic anatomy and physiology. Now, cough suppressants basically inhibit your cough center, because of which there will be other effects as well, but mainly you will be able to suppress cough. You do not have to go a lot in detail, because antitussive medications itself for you is a very, very small chapter. All right. Some common examples will be codeine. You also have, for example, you have noscapine, and you have dextromethorphan and antihistamines. So some of these drugs themselves will be like classes. All right, antihistamine itself is a class of drugs. All right, so these examples should be enough. All of these will act centrally, and they will suppress your cough center that is present in medulla, basically causing decrease in the cough or suppressing cough, basically. Coming to the first one, codeine. Now, we will study a little bit more about codeine when we come across analgesics, specifically opioid analgesics. After antitussives and all, I will go to unit 5, wherein you have what do you call CNS suppressants. Basically, in that one topic will be analgesics, specifically opioid and non-opioid analgesics. In that, you will understand what is codeine a little bit more. But for now, just imagine codeine as the same product that comes from the plant that gives you morphine. Okay, there is a plant called opium poppy. From that, you get a few natural exudates. One such exudate is codeine. Codeine will act very similar to morphine. It is an opioid analgesic and opioid drug. It is less addictive than morphine. Now, if you have ever administered morphine or seen morphine being used, you know, patients of morphine can get addicted to the drug. Obviously, morphine is a very, very strong analgesic drug that will decrease pain, normally used in chronic conditions. Right? Patients who have very severe pain in them, morphine is used. Codeine is also used similarly, but it has less activity, much less than morphine. Hence, it can be given for cough as well, and it is less addictive. Now, common side effects of codeine will be, I'm abbreviating it as SE. So one second, let me. So common side effects of this thing will be nausea and constipation. Generally, any opioid drug, they will cause constipation, sometimes drowsiness as well. So drowsiness is also common. Constipation and drowsiness. Right. Generally, the normal dose that you're supposed to give of codeine will be around 10 to 15 mg QID. Okay, 4 times a day. That is the normal dose. If you go over it, it can cause severe what do you call, especially for cough, this dose is used. If you go over it, what will happen is your CNS will get suppressed more than normal. Right, you are already suppressing your CNS using something like codeine. See, whenever we are talking about central cough suppressants, true, it is suppressing your cough center, because of which your cough gets suppressed, but it will also suppress other parts of your brain, so you have to be careful in that sense. All right, the patient can go very drowsy and all of that can happen, right? Generally, codeine is not used for outpatients, not a lot. At least if it is being used, you'll have to advise the patient to not drive or do any such activity where they require complete attention. Okay, so let's suppose they are driving or doing some manual labor or things like that, they are not supposed to drink codeine. These kind of drugs will only or mostly be given when they're about to sleep, right, late in the night or something like that. Okay. uh, Now, coming to pharyngeal demulcents, that is one class. I'll discuss one drug from each class. There's not a lot of description anyway. Pharyngeal demulcents. See, whenever we are discussing pharmacology as well, in one class, generally, let's suppose this is the main class, your antitussives is the main class. In that classification, you will have a few subclasses. All right, generally one subclass, or say in some senses these are also called classes themselves. Okay, so in one subclass or in one class, the mechanism of action, the way drugs will work will be pretty much the same. Very few times you will have drugs that have different functions altogether. Okay, when we come to antihistamines and all, I'll explain, but all of them will cause central cough, what do you call, central cough suppression. Basically they will work on medulla and they will suppress your cough. So the mechanism they work will be pretty much the same. Only small tinkering differences will come where individually their structures are slightly different, because of which their PK/PD parameters will slightly change, dosages might change. If there is any particular drug that is standing out, I will discuss that, but in general, in one class we'll be discussing only one, because all of the drugs in that particular class will work the same way, so it makes no sense in repeating the same thing again and again, because the main differences in one class or in one subclass in this case will come only in PK/PD parameters, right? Very rarely in any other thing. Mechanism of action will remain the same amongst classes. So if I compare central cough suppressants and I compare pharyngeal demulcents, among them you will have difference in mechanism of action. So they will have different ways through which they work. That we can discuss, right? So coming to pharyngeal demulcents, what they do is these increase flow of saliva, because of which we write down a small flow chart like thing. If saliva flow increases, what happens is soothing effect on pharyngeal mucosa. That is one thing it does. Okay, let me put it this way. It does two things. One thing is it will give a soothing effect on the pharyngeal mucosa. Another thing your this thing will do is, or ऐसा डालेंगे नहीं तो, this is direct correlation. Pharyngeal demulcents will do another thing. They will decrease afferent impulse arising from irritated mucosa. So these are the two things that pharyngeal demulcents will do. See, one thing they are doing is they will increase the flow of saliva. Now, whenever there is some substance that is going inside your pharynx, right? Obviously, it will go from pharynx to larynx, then to trachea. That is how you breathe in. And obviously, cough is occurring because there is some irritation in that part, especially on the mucosa that is present in your pharynx. Let's suppose there is something that is irritating your mucosa and you take a pharyngeal demulcent. Okay, so for example, I draw your pharynx like this, and here is your mucosa. Let's suppose there is a mucosa like this, and there is some particular uh, object or some particular substance that is causing. One second. Yeah, let's suppose this is the substance that is causing irritation, the grayish substance. All right. So what pharyngeal demulcents will do is they will increase the flow of saliva. Whenever flow of saliva increases, what happens is, so let's suppose saliva is like this, right? What happens is it will basically cover that substance whichever is irritating the mucosa, and it will basically have a soothing effect on your pharyngeal mucosa, wherein if increased amount of saliva is present, that irritation will decrease. That is one thing it will do. Another thing that pharyngeal demulcents will do is, now whenever there is some substance that is coming and irritating your mucosa, so let me draw it here again. There is your mucosa, and here is your substance that was irritating. Now whenever there is irritation to your mucosa, obviously this information will be sent to your cough center. Okay, so I'll abbreviate it CC. Okay, it will be sent to your cough center through afferent nerves, right? Afferent nerves are the ones that will carry sensory impulse to your higher center, and efferent nerves are the ones that will uh, what do you call, cause a motor response, or they will cause a response, right? Remember them as E as exit. Okay, so E is coming out, A is going towards. So afferent, AFFERENT, afferent nerves that are taking the response from your mucosa, they will get suppressed. Okay, so that is what this fellow is doing. Now this is what this fellow is doing. Pharyngeal demulcents, one thing they are doing is they are increasing flow of saliva, because of which there is soothing effect. Here there is soothing effect. Now whenever there is some irritant that is coming and irritating your mucosa is obviously sending some what you call nerve impulses or signal to your higher center, especially your cough center, which is causing cough. Now if I'm suppressing the response from your nervous system there, obviously you'll not get that impulse. I hope you're understanding. Let's suppose there is um, let's suppose in your college one thief comes. Okay, for example, some thief is coming. All right, and you have a guard there. Okay, some watchman or some guard, right? Whenever he sees a thief, or if he sees a wild animal, for example, if a tiger comes in, God forbid, but let's suppose a tiger is coming in, and what do you call the what do you call security person is seeing that and shouting, see, tiger came, please run away, and whatever he calls on for, right? That is the afferent response here, right? Whenever that irritant is coming, the tiger is coming to your mucosa, your guard is basically sending a signal, right? Alerting other people. Now what happens if I am removing the guard itself? If I remove the guard, or if I let's suppose I make the guard sleep, or I give the guard leave for one day, there will be no guard. In this sense, what pharyngeal demulcents are doing is they are inactivating this response, this afferent response from your mucosa to your higher center. If there is no initial stimulus, if no one is calling that tiger came, no one else will know for a period of time, until unless obviously the tiger is coming inside and making noise and doing their tigery stuff. So basically till then you will have no response. In the same way here, if you cut off the neuronal response or the nervous impulse here, you will not get any efferent response here. All right, that is what pharyngeal demulcents will do. I hope you are understanding. If you have any doubt, please feel free to ask me. All right, you can stop me at any time if you are having doubts, or if you want me to repeat any particular part.
Excuse me, sir.
Hmm.
सर डायग्राम को और एक बार रिपीट कर दीजिए ना.
अच्छा, देखो, pharyngeal demulcents will do two things. Let's suppose this is your pharynx. Uh, let's suppose this is a part of your pharynx and you have mucosa on it. Right? Obviously, you will have mucus being secreted to keep your pharynx nice and moist, and you have mucosal lining here. Right? Now there is some substance that is causing cough, an irritant. Okay, any particular substance. So let's suppose this substance here, the red dot, is causing irritation to your mucosa. One thing your pharyngeal demulcent will do is it will increase the flow of saliva. If there is more saliva present, it will basically coat this object, one thing, and it will make sure that the saliva is it will make sure that the mucosa is not irritated anymore. So basically by covering that uh, foreign object which is irritating your mucosa, it is soothing the pharyngeal mucosa. Right, that is one thing that pharyngeal demulcents will do. Another thing your pharyngeal demulcents will do is, now whenever there is irritant here, so I'll draw it here again, there is irritant here, this fellow is causing irritation on the mucosa like this, because of which your mucosa is sending a signal to your brain, okay, that see, someone is irritating me, please initiate cough reflex. Right, whenever there is something irritating your mucosa, that is when you cough. Now what if I suppress this particular signal itself? Basically I'm stopping the signal that is telling your brain there is something irritating your mucosa. I am already taking care of that irritant by increasing saliva. Another thing I will do is I will stop this response. So basically your mucosa or your receptors here will not be able to send the signal to your brain, telling your brain that there is something irritating the mucosa. If there is no response from this end, your brain will not be able to send a response for cough, or it cannot initiate cough reflex. Alright, that is one way you are able to stop cough reflex. Okay, I hope that answers your doubt. समझ में आया याजिक?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there's a lot of lag, but okay, I'll take that as a yes. ठीक है. Now we were talking about pharyngeal demulcents, right? Now Now, dry cough due to the main what do you call type of cough this pharyngeal demulcent will cater to is dry cough. If someone has dry cough, that is when pharyngeal demulcents will come really handy. Okay, your strepsils, Vicks, some other lozenges that you get, all of these they are like candy sugar, right? They'll be like candy with a few drops of lemon and all in that. All of these will work as pharyngeal demulcents, right? Coming to the next one, that is hmm, coming to the next one, expectorants. Now, expectorants are basically those drugs that increase the production of respiratory tract secretions. All right, your respiratory tract obviously has certain secretions. Whenever these secretions are increased and they are basically produced more, these will cover the what you call mucosa. Right, that is one thing they do. And as the secretions become more and more thin or less viscous, it can easily be coughed out. So again, if I draw the same diagram, let's suppose this is your pharynx or any part of your what you call respiratory tract. What is happening if a irritant or anything that is causing cough, if you are taking an expectorant, so let's suppose there is something like this. Okay, let me draw a little bit of mucosa as well. So there is your mucosa. Right, let's suppose something is irritating your mucosa. What expectorants do is they will increase respiratory secretions. So more amount of enzymes or uh, mucus, all of that will be excreted by your respiratory tissue. Because of which, what will happen is here in this what do you call your respiratory tract, more amount of mucus will start getting accumulated, which is less viscous. It is more watery kind of mucus. Okay, whenever this is coming into picture and it is what do you call getting collected in your respiratory tract, think of it this way: when you have cold and you have a lot of mucus being built up in your throat or in your respiratory tract, what will you do? You will obviously cough it out and you spit it out, right? That is what expectorants induce. So basically they are causing more respiratory tract secretions to be what do you call formed, because of which more mucus will get accumulated, and this is very thin and very what do you call how should I put it, less viscous kind of mucus. Okay, it will not be thick and what do you call, it will be very runny. Think of it like very runny liquid, because of which you'll easily be able to cough it out. When you're coughing this out, this irritant will also come out with this. All right, that is what your expectorants do. Now your volatile oils like eucalyptus or kya bolte, okay, I have to write a few examples for these as well. No, let me write a few examples here for pharyngeal demulcents before we move to that. Pharyngeal demulcents के examples है, you have lozenges and you have cough drops and linctusses. These are different forms through which you can give the same drug, but pharyngeal demulcents will be those. Right, your strepsils, fix, all of them are the same. Now coming back to expectorants, your eucalyptus oil, volatile oils like eucalyptus oil or creosotes, alcohol. Okay, all of these when they are administered by inhalation especially, they will increase respiratory tract secretion. So whenever someone has congestion in their respiratory tract, whenever they have cold or flu, during that period of time, if you are making them inhale these volatile oils, they will technically act as a expectorant, where if you yourself have experienced cold or flu kind of thing, wherein you are having congestion and you're not able to breathe properly, during that period of time, I'm sure your parents or someone or you generally will take what you call steam inhalation, right? In that you generally add a little bit of zandu balm or something, some volatile oil, some substance that contains volatile oil. One common volatile oil will be eucalyptus. So when you inhale that, what happens is it will increase respiratory secretions, because of which it will be easier to cough it out, right? Some common examples for expectorants other than this will be potassium iodide. You have guaifenesin, and ammonium chloride, and ipecacuanha. Okay. All of these will help in increasing respiratory secretions, because of which you'll be able to cough or expectorate the substance that is causing irritation to your mucosa out. All right. Now, these are the three main classes of your antitussives. Um Coming to the last two classes that I told you, the special classes. One second, I'll erase these. And so you have bronchodilators. Bronchodilators are the same the way we studied in asthma, right? These are given along with cough medication. These are not true cough medications. Okay, these are not true drugs of given for cough. These are something that are given along with cough. Now, generally, antitussives, whenever you're giving cough suppressant drugs, they are given in a way that, let's suppose you give a central cough suppressant, you give an expectorant, you give an antihistamine, and you give a bronchodilator or mucolytic, or both of them, depending on the severity of the cough. Okay, sometimes, not always, but sometimes you will add a bronchodilator. Bronchodilators basically will relieve cough that is being caused because of a bronchospasm. I told you what a bronchospasm is. Transient contractions of your smooth muscle in your bronchi that will cause bronchospasm, where your bronchi is constricting and relaxing, right? That will cause cough. So bronchospasm or bronchodilator specifically, they will increase the size of your bronchi, wherein, let's suppose someone has a bronchi that is filled up with mucus. So one second. Suppose that's why we studied this in anti-asthmatics, right? So if they have mucus being built up here, if you simply increase the size of this bronchi, right? Let's suppose I'm increasing the size of the bronchi like this. What will end up happening is, even if there is the same amount of mucus, you will be able to breathe, basically decreasing the impulse for coughing, right? That is one way your bronchodilators will help. The same, what you call old drugs, salbutamol, salmeterol, all of them will work. Terbutaline, they will act as bronchodilators, right? We already discussed that in what you call asthma. Other than this, there is another class called mucolytics. What mucolytics will do is, so you have something called mucolytics. Mucolytics will literally break down mucus. Okay, it will break down the structure of mucus. And what happens is, mucus normally in a normal patient, normal person like you and I, who's not suffering from any particular disease, mucus is very watery, so it is very easy to handle. And if there is excessive amount of mucus, you will easily spit it out, or it will easily get what they call generally, whenever there is excessive amount of mucus, it is either absorbed back inside, or it will be sent to your esophagus, where it will be combining with your acid and it gets dissolved. That is what happens with mucus. In patients who have respiratory diseases, like chronic respiratory diseases, or someone who has respiratory diseases, these secretions, specifically mucus, it will become very thick and it will become very viscous. Now, if you remember, in your bronchi, you have something called pseudostratified columnar epithelium, ciliated epithelium, right? Thus, cilia, I told you, if mucus is nice and thin, it will easily be able to push out that mucus. But if it becomes very thick, that cilia is not able to push the mucus out, and it starts getting clogged in your respiratory bronchi and in your terminal bronchi, your whole respiratory tract. During that period of time, you'll not be able to breathe properly, and ultimately you will have a lot of cough. So one way of treating them is, if you give mucolytics, what they will do is, they will literally lyse the mucus. That is why they are called lytics. They will break down mucus, because of which what will happen is, mucus will become watery. So let me write it down here. These make mucus watery. When mucus becomes watery, what ends up happening is, it will become very easy to cough it out, right? Even if there is a lot of mucus being produced, if you are consuming mucolytic drugs, uh, it will be easy to cough mucus out. So common drugs will be bromohexine, acetylcysteine, right, and carbocystine. All of these are given as mucolytics. They will basically break down what do you call, they will basically secrete mucolase. Mucolase is the enzyme that will break down mucus. Whenever this enzyme acts on mucus, it will break down thick sputum or thick mucus and will make it watery so that it is easy to cough it out. All right. So these are all the drugs that will come under your antitussive. So this will complete your antitussive medications. I hope you understood. If you have any doubts, please let me know in any particular part. If you want me to repeat any particular part, or if you didn't understand any part, you can put it in the chat as well. No doubts. Chalo, ठीक है. Tomorrow I'll start general anesthetics. You have unit 5 CNS depressants and CNS stimulants. So we'll do that. See, I'll try to do chapters that are close to your pathology. So basically, I will try to complete some topic in pathology. Once you know the disease, it will be easier to know how to treat it. All right. So we'll try to correlate in such a way. Now in pathology, after this, what do you call? After I start CNS depressants and all, I will start cardiology. So once we are done with cardiology in patho, you'll be able to understand cardio, the drugs used for cardiology, or the drugs used for CVS. Okay, so I will do this intermediate project. You do not have any psychiatric disorders, or you do not have any neurological disorders as such, not very severe neurological disorders. So we can easily discuss CNS and ANS stimulants and depressants to be easier for you to understand. After that, once we finish cardiology in patho, you'll be able to understand CVS drugs. All right. Hello. If you have no doubts, then we'll. Okay.